He had been learning magic since he was young until one day he was banished from his party because they thought he was weak, when in fact he was the strongest SS rank warrior. A young boy sits by the river quietly fishing when a wizard suddenly appears and asks if he'd like to learn magic. Though confused, the boy eagerly agrees and the sorcerer Eldest begins training him, explaining that someday he'll have companions whose lives will depend on his magic. Magic, Eldest says, is simply turning one's breath into something special. When the boy releases his first spell and hits the target, he beams with pride despite the exhausting day. Eldest praises him, noting that what others take a month to learn he mastered in a single day. But training ends there. The impatient child pouts, wanting to learn more, but his master reminds him that those who rush eat their food raw, suggesting they catch a fish before sunset. Eldest hopes to relax the boy's mind, though Alec keeps insisting on more practice. Smiling, the wizard tells him he has a natural gift for magic and will surely become a great sorcerer, but he must let time flow as calmly as the river before them. Curious, Alec asks why the wizard chose to teach him, but before Eldest can reply, his fishing line suddenly jerks. He's caught something. Eldest and Alec focused on the catch, though Eldest clearly had no idea what to do next. The boy teased the adult for being brilliant with spells but hopeless at fishing. After some struggle and a clumsy fall, they finally caught the fish and burst into laughter. The following day, Alec tried to master a magic formula and Eldest told him that once he grasped the pattern behind it, things would become easier. They spent hours studying together, making steady progress until Snowfall turned their lesson into a snowball fight. Alec cherished every moment with his master. But one day, Eldest told him he was leaving the capital and advised him never to become a court mage if he had the chance. Confused, Alec asked why Eldest had taught him magic at all. The wizard revealed it was to repay a favor owed to Alec's late mother. Years later, while studying at the Royal Academy of Magic, Alec discovered from the archives that Eldest had once been the Academy's most brilliant student before being banished as a court mage. Realizing the source of his teacher's sorrow, Alec vowed to reform the court to honor his mentor's kindness. Yet to do that, he would first have to become a court mage himself, a path that fate would make far crueler than he ever imagined. After becoming one of the court's magicians, Alec was dismissed from his group by Prince Regulus of Galdana. Lenny and Ix laughed as the prince expelled him, claiming Alec failed to protect him properly. During missions, Regulus led the charge, Lenny attacked with fire magic, and Ix absorbed blows, leaving Alec to handle only defense and enchantments. Pathetic, they said, for a court mage. When Alec tried to explain, his teammates called him a coward who always avoided deeper dungeon levels. Lenny, who had kept quiet because the prince had assigned Alec to them, finally declared she refused to explore with a useless loser. Though Regulus admitted Alec had excelled at the academy, he said the mage had become nothing but dead weight. He took Alec's dagger, reminding him that commoners couldn't carry weapons, and accused him of acting independently. Finally, Regulus tore off his robe, saying he didn't deserve the title. Stunned and humiliated, Alec could only watch as his team walked away. But even then, he didn't give up and continued to study and improve. After learning that the prince couldn't use magic, Alec decided to make up for his highness's weakness, hoping it would let him serve his old group again. Deep down, he still wished to return and prove his worth. But soon, reality began to shut its doors on him, literally. The next day, when he tried to enter the capital, the guards stopped him, saying that without his court mage title, he was just another commoner. In the middle of the commotion, Lenny appeared to back them up, repeating that commoners weren't allowed inside. She even mocked him, saying she'd heard he'd broken the royal dungeon record from level 37 to 60 back in the academy, but was still just a boaster in her eyes. When she turned to leave, Alec pleaded with her to deliver a letter to the king, reminding her he had joined Regulus's team under royal orders. Lenny took the letter, tore it to pieces before his eyes, and closed the gate, crushing the last of his hope. Standing there on the empty street, Alec reflected on his 4 years as a court mage and asked Eldest for forgiveness for failing to change the imperial court. As he lingered in thought, someone suddenly embraced him warmly. Looking up, he saw a bright smile. It was Yora, his old friend. After 4 years apart, Alec and Yora quickly caught up. He shared his struggles and she finally understood his gloom. Yora confessed she'd always hated Galdana's rigid class system and was glad he'd left the court. Keeping her old promise, she invited Alec to join her in dungeon adventures. Though he hesitated, haunted by being cast out as useless, Yora just laughed, saying she needed no one but Alec Igret, unless he preferred crawling back to the court. Moved, he took her hand, and together they joined the A-ranked group lasting period. The next morning, Alec dreamed of Eldest warning him not to become a court mage before the carriage's jolt woke him. As they rode toward Fizzle, Yora urged him to rest for the long journey ahead. Meanwhile, in the capital, Prince Regulus learned Alec had vanished. Lenny said it had been 5 days and that rumors claimed he turned adventurer. Regulus sneered, calling Alec a coward for fleeing despite once being hailed a prodigy. Lenny cheered that they no longer had to drag that useless man around, and now with Lord Vaughan from Duke Fornius' house, their dungeon conquest would surely bring Regulus fame. Hours later, Alec and Yora arrived in Fizzle, the city of dungeons and their team's base. Before joining the expedition, Alec had to register at the Adventurers Guild, but the receptionist rejected him for lacking a city pass and proper licenses, which required 2 years of experience. Yora protested, saying Krasia had promised to handle it, but the clerk said she'd been rude and unhelpful. Frustrated, Yora blamed herself for trusting her and took a bite of her sandwich, muttering that their team had already reached level 52. They couldn't afford to wait 2 years. After swallowing the sandwich, Yora stopped complaining and shifted her thoughts to finding other dungeons to explore. Since they were in the city of dungeons, she figured they could start with an easier one to warm up. Standing up, she welcomed Alec to Fizzle, hoping he'd enjoy the place. As night fell, they entered a forest swarming with flying insects. Yora cast an enhancement spell to boost Alec's speed and strength, allowing him to take down several enemies swiftly. But soon, a larger swarm appeared, clearly panicked by something that had disturbed their nest. Yora raised her magic shield and moved to face them alone, while Alec, drained from his time away from magic after being expelled from the court, struggled to cast spells and fought hand-to-hand. Seeing Yora in danger, he forced himself to focus and released a powerful fire spell that burned through the swarm. Regaining confidence, he resumed fighting as Yora shielded him. Despite being outnumbered, their teamwork shone through. Yora strengthened her barrier while Alec summoned a storm of lightning that annihilated the insects. Just as they caught their breath, a massive earthworm erupted from the ground, seizing Yora's scepter in its jaws and lifting it high into the air. Instead of falling into despair, Alec remembers that his partner is the best support mage in the academy, and she answers that her comrade is the finest attack sorcerer. Both agree that the only one drunk here is the worm, and Alec Egret summons a massive fire tornado that engulfs the monster. Yora shields herself from the scorching heat as Alec's flames obliterate the earthworm. Victorious, they praise each other's performance, and Yora laughs, saying her friend hasn't changed at all. The scene shifts to a dungeon where a lancer's spear fails to pierce a monster's hard shell. As the Hydra lunges to devour him, his teammate's arrow saves the day, though the lancer still complains. The creature retaliates with a fireball, but Yora raises an ice wall to block it, then counters an electric sphere with a wall of earth. Overwhelmed by the relentless attacks, she starts to falter until Alec arrives and unleashes a devastating spell that annihilates the Hydra instantly. With that victory, the archer announces they cleared the 68th floor, setting a new dungeon record. To celebrate, the 4 companions shout their team's name, lasting period, vowing to write their everlasting story together. If you're enjoying the journey of this series, please hit that like and subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any updates. All of your support helps me to keep bringing more high-quality recaps.